your diplomas. Please bring your friends and family. We just ask that you click on the or fill out the QR code and tell us how many people are bringing so we can account for dinner. So if you can do that sooner rather than later, that would be great. But I'm excited to introduce you Brian Pope. He is a member of the Chamber and has done a lot for our community. Just a little bit about Brian. He is a serial parallel entrepreneur with 4 exits under his belt. He has turned around multiple struggling companies, 2 of which became national leaders. His company, Humanly Connected, shows leaders a new standard for communication that transforms people and messaging and brands. Brian lives in Utah with his wife and best friend Lisa and enjoys spending time with his children and grandchildren, skiing, riding motorcycles, hiking, and writing. Brian's been kind of a new friend of the Chamber. I've gotten to know him over the past couple months, and we recently had an event. He is a great person to know if you are trying to build relationships and understand the purpose of those relationships. So without further ado, Brian.
Thank you. So about 20 years ago, I was speaking to a group similar to this one on the same topic we're talking about today, which is growing your audience. And that in that group, there was a gentleman who owned an automotive repair shop. And let me silence this so we don't get surprised. He asked a question of me. He said, how do I grow my audience when nothing I do marketing-wise, advertising-wise, seems to work? He said, I just tried something that I spent a lot of money on that I didn't have to lose, and I got nothing out of the deal. And I asked him to describe to me what he did. Everybody here familiar with R.C. Willey? Okay. This story's a little old, but R.C. Willey's still around. He said, a marketing guy approached me, and he said, I can drive people to your shop just like people go to R.C. Willey. We'll do the same thing they do. They used to have a campaign they did. It was called The Check is in the Mail. And there was a little piece they mailed out that had a bunch of checks in it for different things. And he said, I spent thousands of dollars getting that designed and printed and mailed, and I was all excited. And he said, we did not get anything from that. A big fat goose egg. Why is something that worked so well for R.C. Willey, why didn't that work for me? And I thought it was such a great question to ask when it comes to growing an audience. So I said, well, let's look at the nature of the campaign and the facts here and everything. And so I said, did you make really aggressive offers, really cool things? And he had. He had made some really good offers. Was it well designed? Did it look great? Yeah. Was your email list the right list? He had mailed it to every address in, I think it was a 3-mile, maybe 5-mile radius of his shop. So it sounds like he had hit the audience properly. We went through all of these different factors, and I said, okay, so you have the name recognition R.C. Willey has, I'm assuming, in your market area. And he said, probably not. And I said, well, that's okay, because what you did is the same thing R.C. Willey did, or does, and that is that they have ads on TV about every 5 minutes during that campaign that says, hey, the check is in the mail. Watch for this mailer in your mailbox. When it shows up, here's what's in it. Here's what you do with it. You train your audience. You did that part right. And he smiled and said, well, no, I can't afford TV ads. The point was that what he did was not aligned with who he was. It wasn't a fit. He was trying to be someone else, something else, other than who he was. And that's just not how it works. That's not how we grow audiences. As Karina said, my background is in turnarounds, and so I grew up in business learning how to look at things very differently from most people. I love challenging the status quo. I love being wrong, in air quotes. I love it when people tell me that what I'm doing won't work or wonder why I'm doing what I'm doing. I love to challenge thinking and test things. And so today, rather than jump in and talk about the things that you may be expected to come to hear about how to grow an audience, I want to kind of go off into what might feel like the weeds and talk about some things that I have found in building our businesses really do work, and they are at the foundation of growing an audience. At the end, before we're done, I will share with you a tool that we have used that you can start using today that will absolutely change the way you grow your audience and have you start seeing results that you haven't seen before. And I've never had anybody dispute that after they use it. So hopefully that continues to be the case after today. I'd like to ask a favor of you. Just take a moment, if you would, and jot down, or you can think of it if you don't want to write it down. Think about what you came here today hoping to discover, and come up with one question based on that. The only rule here is that after you hear what I have to say, you can't change those questions. I still want you to ask those questions even after I've shared some things that I'm going to share. Is that fair? So I'll give you just 30 seconds here or so. All right. So let me ask this question first of all. And by the way, this is going to be more of a conversation. I'm not a presenter. I can do the 15-minute TED Talk thing. I do that quite a bit. But if it's longer than that, it has to be a conversation because nobody wants to listen to me for more than 15 minutes. That's just the way it is. What is an audience? If we're talking about growing our audiences, when you think of that, who is that audience? Are you running a mic around, Karina? You're still eating. I apologize. What's an audience? Okay, so top of your marketing funnel is the answer that I got there. Is that your audience? Be brave. Yes, no, maybe so. Come on. Yeah.
I would add, not just at the top of your funnel, but also like within your ecosystem, so the people that know, like, and trust you.
Okay.
Whether that's those who have purchased with you, have been with you for years, or those who have just barely discovered you.
Okay, so I'm hearing that the answer to my question about his response is yes, but it's part of your audience, not the whole of your audience, because it's also those other people you just mentioned. Okay, anybody want to add to that? Yeah.
I definitely agree with both of those. Maybe even a larger scope could be anyone who feels the pain that you address.
Okay, so not necessarily people that are in your funnel yet or who have purchased before, but the people that don't even know you exist yet, but are feeling that pain. Okay, I'm agreeing with all of this so far. You're doing great. Anybody want to add?
We could build upon that too.
Let's hear it.
The customers that don't know that they're going to be customers, they're not part of your market today. They don't, for me, they're not homeowners yet. They don't have anything for me to paint yet, but they will someday.
Okay,
So
so they
market-
don't even have the pain yet,
Right.
but may some at
But
some
when they
point.
do, I want them to be sure who they can call.
Aware of you okay, great. This is awesome. You guys are doing great. Let's keep adding to this. What can you add to that? The momentum has slowed. Did we cover it? This table gets a gold star. They're the ones who have had all the answers. Anybody want to add to that? Let me open your minds a little bit. Everybody we've talked about so far is a prospective client. By the way, I only use the word client. I never say customer. The reason for that is because a client is one under the care or protection of another. A customer is simply someone who transacts business with you. So when you start seeing everyone in your life, not just the people you do business with, everyone in your life as clients, cool things happen. When everyone is under your care and protection, it changes relationships in a big way. So we've talked about prospective clients and clients. Let's look outside that. What about inside your business? Do you have an audience there that's important? Who's in that audience? Your people. Let's get more specific. You are correct. Who are those people by title or category? Okay, employees.
Your employees, the vendors that you interact with, purchase from.
Okay, vendors, super important.
That's all I got for now.
That's good. How about strategic partners? Joint venture partners? Kind of important to your success? I believe so. Your banker? Goes to vendors. Your banker? Your CPA? The painter? We have a painter here. The painter who's going to paint your office. Do you do commercial as well as residential? All right, there you go. Okay, any others? If we look at our audience, growing our audience specifically with that lens that we've added, does that kind of change maybe what growing an audience looks like? Any other categories you can think of? Any other groups that are part of our audience as we grow? And I'm going to specifically say grow a business, but as we grow, yeah.
I don't know. Could competitors?
Talk to me. Let's hear it.
I mean, I guess audience is very dependent on audience of what they're being audience to. But I guess if it's an audience of the message you put out, your competitors see that message and react to it, shaping the market you then operate in. And so they could, I guess, be considered an audience, maybe?
I would say they definitely are an audience. Are they aware of you?
Yes.
Do they know what you do?
Yes.
Do they have an impact on the results of your business in one way or another?
Yes.
I think they're definitely part of your audience, for sure. Absolutely. I will say with that, I'm not a big believer in the term competitor either. I'll talk about that a little bit later on. If you have competitors, there's some mindset shifts that need to be made there. And we'll talk about that a little bit. But from where you're coming from and what you're talking about, you're 100% on. Agree with you totally. Others?
I would like to think about my fans. Because there are people of who I'm a client. There are people out there who care about my well-being, my success. And I think about how do I maintain the relationship with them, because that's where a lot of great of my support comes from, is from my fans.
Absolutely. Spot on. Are there any subgroups in that group maybe that come to your mind as we think through this? That's a broad category, isn't it?
I mean, you have mentors. Those are big fans.
Yeah.
Educators, family members, people who are living vicariously through you and your success, and they want a good show. Your friends, your family. I know we already mentioned them. They have their own group but they also exist in this group as a supporter.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much. He mentioned one group in there that I want to bring up. And before we're done here today, I promise you'll see me cry, and this might be where it happens. That's just me. And there it goes. He brought up family. That was a tough one for me to learn. In my early days of business, it was all about business. My dad he referred to himself even as an empire builder. It was all about the business. It was all about the money. It was all about showing up to the meeting in the Lear Series 35 jet. It was all about you remember the Dodge Viper? The initial Vipers, they had no roofs on them, true leg pipes, not the fake ones like later, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we had one, along with some Maseratis and other things and all. That's what mattered to him. That's what was important. And so that's what I grew up with, and that's what I learned. I love my dad. He's been gone almost 20 years now. Love the guy. Love what I learned from him. He did so much good for so many people. However, as an immature young guy, I just saw that part, and I really didn't have the background or the foundation he had otherwise prior to his financial success. And in building one of the companies I was building, which ultimately did end up being the most profitable company in the entire U.S. in our sector in the chemical and petroleum industry. I was in my 30s, thought I owned the world, couldn't do anything wrong. Everything I touched turned to gold. It was awesome. Sorry. I came dangerously close to losing that segment of my audience, my wife, my kids. Man, I'm grateful for a great wife. She is amazing. And she stuck with me through all of my stupidity. I'm going to broaden the view of audience out just one more level, if I may, and just say that our audience ultimately is everyone that we encounter, either individually, through the messages that we put out, the products we create, whatever. Our audiences are huge, and we never know who's watching. We never know how they're seeing us based on their values and their experiences. And when we tune into that and realize the importance of being who we are 24/7, 365, and having that be something positive, don't just be a jerk 24/7, 365, but actually be something positive that people want to live vicariously through, as we heard over here, or associate with, the game changes for us. I'm going to share a few principles here with you, and the last principle that I'm going to share will tie right into that. As I share these, let me just share this first. You're all familiar with the concept of not acting initially, not acting tactically, being strategic in your thought processes and so forth, and then letting the tactics fall out of that, right? Is that a concept we're all familiar with? Let's just give an example of that real quick so we're all on the same page. Can anybody give me a concept or an example of that concept where we think and act strategically and then let the tactics emerge, if you will, or show themselves out of that strategy? Can you think of an example?
We're in Provo, Utah, so asking someone on a date.
Asking someone on a date? Okay, let's keep the mic over there. He's not off the hook yet.
Oh, great. Oh no.
Is this speaking from experience, what we're going to hear?
I like to say so.
Okay, give me a tactical example of asking someone out on a date, and then give me a strategic example that tactic might come out of, that instead of being tactical, the strategy helps us see a bigger picture and maybe be more successful.
I think walk me through the two differences of what you want.
Well, that's what I wanted from you.
Oh. So strategic, just going out on a limb here, see if this is what you want. Strategic would be, okay, there's an end goal of what I would like to go on a date, to have a girlfriend. That is the end goal. That's what I want.
Okay.
The tactical side of that comes down to, okay, what's the best way to approach that? What are the things that I have to give up or do in extra that's not the shortest, quickest path to what I need, but to, okay, what is the person I'm asking out? What do they like? What do they want? What would make them comfortable? All those other parts and pieces that go into it.
Okay.
Am I close to?
So one other concept I'll share here. I don't believe words like right and wrong, good and bad, those things. I think they are, they have their place, but those places are very few. We use them very poorly, I think. One of the pieces I've written is called Choose More Effective Adjectives. And it's better scratched out and then more effective. So I don't think it's what you said is right or wrong. My question is, how does having that view of what you ultimately want, how does that help you tactically when you go to implement?
Oh, that makes me think about, okay, what have I done in the past? Did that help me lead to my goal or not?
Okay,
What have I seen
brings
others
up
do around
experiences.
me? You know, they did that and they got the thing that I want. So should I follow them? You know, like, it makes me consider my actions in the framework of, will my actions get to the end result?
Okay. Let me share, thank you. Thank you for being willing to be on the spot there. Let me share an example here real quickly. Let's take a new retail store that's opening up as an example. And of course, the principles apply everywhere. Doesn't matter if we're online or physical or whatever. Some people will go out and just place ads, do some coupons. Hey, come in, grand opening, come see what we're about. To me, that's tactical. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that, but why are we doing it? If we get strategic, and the strategy is, let's create some foot traffic patterns over the next 6 months so that people get into a buying habit, so that after our honeymoon period of grand opening is over, they'll continue to come. You see how that's a what but not a how. And that's how I see strategy as a what. The tactics are the how. So once we've said that, let's create these foot traffic patterns, which is strategic. How are we going to do that? Well, now doing the coupons might be one of those ways, but that opens our mind up to where now there's multiple ways we might look at doing that work in tandem with each other to make that happen. Does that make sense? So that's why we go to the strategy level. I want to take it to another level. And this is hopefully one of those things you've never heard before, never thought of before. I've not heard other people speak about it. What if we took it to a higher level than strategy and we went to the principle level and let principles drive the strategies and strategies drive the tactics? If we open that same store and we're at the principle level, just give me an example. It doesn't matter what it is. We're making stuff up anyway, so we can say whatever we want. What's a principle that might drive our actions in opening a retail store? And by the way, as far as principles go, I like one-word principles. Usually when people say something that's more than one word and call it a principle, it's really a maxim, not a principle. You think of one-word principles that you might apply? What's that? Money. Okay. And why do you want money? Okay. Okay. So instead of saying that money is the principle, then he may talk more. Instead of saying that money is the principle, based on what you just said, what if we said, man, we could take this all sorts of places. Security. Let's go with that. That's a great word. Okay, if security is the overarching principle, and we take that now down to multiple strategies, part of what's going to do that, you talked about making money so you can keep the doors open, making money so that you can support your family. Now we have that creating foot traffic as a strategy we're going to do that. Are there other strategies that fall under that principle of security that you can think of?
Security for employees.
Okay, the strategy of, can we call that maybe providing gainful employment?
Yeah.
Top of my head words. Okay, so now all of a sudden we've looked at that internal audience as well as that external one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we continue in this exercise, we see that if we have that guiding principle, all of a sudden we have multiple strategies to support that. We have multiple tactics supporting each of those. And instead of doing what this guy with the automotive shop did that I mentioned, having a salesman show up and say, hey, this is your ticket. This is how you grow your audience. And you go, wow, that sounds amazing. Let's do it. Now you've got your map that you can look at and say, maybe that will, maybe it won't. Let's look at it.
Mm-hmm.
You can analyze it against something that's meaningful to you that you've planned out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you. Thank you for your response there. So that's why I like to think in terms of principles. So I'd like to share the first principle here to talk about just a little bit. And that principle is the principle of authenticity. It ties back to many things that have been talked about here. The dating example that we got over here. One of the things you said was, well, it worked for this person, maybe it'll work for me too. If we get to the level of principle, then instead of tactically saying, tactically this worked for that person getting a date, maybe it'll work for me too. If the principle is authenticity, and we look down through this chart that I've alluded to, we can look and either say, that tactic makes sense because it's authentically me and it supports the strategy that I want to pursue. Or we can say, you know what? It's not. That is not authentically me, therefore it's not going to work. And we can bypass it and not waste our time with it, with no heartburn, not having to wonder if it would have worked because it wasn't us. Does that make sense? Yes.
I'm being trained. I'm Pavlov's dog here.
Yeah, you're great.
Just learned to wait for the microphone. So I used to work for eBay a long time ago, and I remember the turmoil that the company was in for a pretty long period of time. And that was that there's this little guy out there called Amazon, and he's just doing these things. And so eBay, who was known for auctions and doing these fun, weird things, collectible items, like it was this quirky thing, but man, it went global and it was massive. And all of a sudden Amazon's like, hey, we can just sell you widgets really fast and really quick and really affordably. In fact, we're going to subsidize some of the cost of this just to make sure that we get market penetration, saturation, right? And all of a sudden eBay's going, dang, we need to pivot, we need to change. And they lost their principle. They lost the core of who they were. They tried to become something that they were not. And I mean, eBay's still around, and I think in some ways they are trying to get back to that principal foundation of what made them special. But just trying to be someone else, trying to date like someone else, it just doesn't always pan out the way you think it will.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. What a beautiful real life example of what happens when we do that, specifically in business. When we lose that, and the maxim that I'm going to attach to that principle of authenticity is find and shape your own voice. Find it, shape it, own it, be proud of it. Don't let it waver. Don't wonder when you hear somebody else say something that you go, oh, wow, that's really cool. Maybe that's what I should be saying. Maybe that's what I should be doing. Be okay with the fact that you've made your decision. It's based in a principle. You've got your strategies. You've got your tactics. You're doing your thing. Now, does this mean we never pivot? Absolutely not. There are times to pivot. But we don't just do what somebody else is doing because they're succeeding at it. And frankly, if they're already succeeding at it, there's a good chance your opportunity isn't there anyway, which I will talk about in my third principle there a little bit. Let's go to the second principle, the principle of stewardship. Somebody tell me what stewardship is? What does stewardship mean to you?
Would it be taking care of something that's not yours?
Taking care of something that is not yours. I like that definition. Some good elements there. There are additional thoughts as well? Thank you.
I mean, there are a lot of religious people here. Whenever I think of stewardship, I think of kind of the stewardship that I have, that I've been given by God to, run a business, employ people, and kind of making wise decisions to take care of people, resources, things that you've been given, blessings or opportunities or whatever. So if I had to boil that down into just one phrase, it's stewardship is about being wise with your decisions.
Okay, thank you. And I think those two go hand in hand very much. Much of what you talked about is being wise in your decisions about things and over things that you do not own, but over which you have some level of responsibility. And that was the word that kept going through my mind as both of you were talking. Is there some level of responsibility there, right? So with that thought in mind, when we talk about growing our audiences specifically, not just business in general, but growing our audiences, how does stewardship play into that? And we'll stick with these definitions we heard over there because I think that frames it up very nicely. What is the stewardship we have? The awkward pause while you wait for the mic. Go ahead.
Would it be the trust of our audience? So it's something that they've given to us and we've got to take care of it. We've got responsibility there.
Okay, absolutely. Huge part of it. That trust that's been given to us. And the trust of employees whose families are depending on us to succeed. Back to something that was said over here earlier. Trust is a huge part of that. Other thoughts? Remember, there are no right or wrong answers here because I don't do right and wrong. Yeah.
I think part of it is taking like initiative to act. If you just let your audience sit, then I think naturally they're going to, in a sense, like decay or kind of in the sense of like atrophy. Like they aren't going to grow if you don't put forth that effort.
Okay. Now there's an interesting concept. Because you have something, because it's been given to you or you have cultivated it or some combination thereof, that you have a stewardship to do something about that, to bless other people with it, because you're the one who has it. So the maxim that I'd like to attach to that one, and thank you, all three of those fit together so beautifully, is be an illuminator. Be an illuminator. If we're going to be entrepreneurial, and we're going to go out and grow our audiences, nobody's going to follow us unless they feel inspired, right? If they don't feel enlightened and inspired, it's not going to work. So we need to be illuminators. That changes how we think about what we say, how we say it, how we live it. So be an illuminator. That is our stewardship. I believe that very much. The third principle is the principle of preeminence. Anybody tell me what preeminence means? There's a lot of smart college types in here. What does it mean to be preeminent? Grab your phones, look it up if you need to. While you're doing that, I'll share a quick funny story. I was in a group, a networking group, many years ago, and the person up front was doing a trivia thing, and she said, now you can't use your phones for this. And this is, I'm not a super fast technology adopter. I went, how on earth would a phone help you with that? Are you going to call somebody and ask them the answer? They're going to sit down to their computer and look it up? I didn't know you could actually get on a phone and get on a browser. That was news to me. It was pretty cool. In fact, I went and bought a Trio. Anybody remember who made the Trio? It was Windows based. The operating system was from Windows. Had actual little buttons you pushed. They weren't on the screen. And the BlackBerry was about the same era. I went and bought a Trio because of that meeting. Okay, anybody got it? What is preeminence? What does it mean to be preeminent? Surely somebody looked that up. Come on. I gave you all that time, yeah. Go ahead. Oh, Mike.
Surpassing all others, very distinguished in some way.
Okay. Ooh, I like the end of that. In some way. That's very broad. That leaves all sorts of opportunities for us. Have you ever heard of the concept of being a category of one? What does that mean? Not being in a category of one necessarily even, but being a category of one. You're nodding. What does it mean to be a category of one?
I love like category design, and so I think being a category of one is, and there's so many different aspects you can look at it, but essentially it's like you're owning like your space. Like there's no other competitors because you are the only person that solves this problem in this specific way for the specific person. And so,
ooh, may I pause you right there?
Mm-hmm.
That was pure gold. You're the only person, and I'll say party because it might be a company of people. You're the only party that solves this specific problem in this specific way for this specific, and I'll say audience. That's cool. You brought that together beautifully. How realistic is that? How many categories of one can there exist in the painting space, for instance, or in banking, or in software development, or anything else? How many?
Infinite.
An infinite number? I would suggest that the opportunity there, as far as the number of categories, is only limited by the number of parties in that industry, right? Everyone has that opportunity. And I talk to a lot of people who say, no, I'm a landscaper. How can I really be in a category of one? Everybody's going to get multiple bids from multiple people and so on and so on. The reality is it does. It exists for everybody. So being a category of one is important. I would suggest that is something, if you're not already focused on that with whatever you're doing in business, make that a priority. When you talk about growing your audience, how much easier is it to grow your audience if you do not have, and I'll call them direct competitors? As far as your audience is concerned, you are the one. Much easier, right? Yeah, thank you. That was beautiful, the way you tied those together. The next principle is engagement, and I'm going to put along with that visibility. And the reason I say engagement instead of visibility, there's something really twisted in the marketing world, and it's gotten way worse as the digital landscape has grown, and that is that we mistake visibility for engagement. How many impressions does a post get? How many opens does an email get? By the way, one of the things we do are brand voice and messaging guides for our clients that just blow the doors open on these things. And I was recognized back in 2012 as one of the top 10% email open rate copywriters in the world. And we had open rates of, many of our campaigns were 50 to 70% open rates with 50+% click-through rates. That's engagement. A 60% open rate with a 5% click-through rate, that's visibility, not engagement. How much good does visibility do us at the end of the day? If everybody's aware of you but nobody's engaging, ultimately doesn't do us a whole lot of good, right? So engagement is what we're talking about here. And the maxim I want to share with that one is be a nexus. What's a nexus? Anybody? I'm not trying to be difficult. A bridge, okay? Additional thoughts? That's a good one, thank you. A connection point? Absolutely. Are you familiar with Venn diagrams? Everybody know what a Venn diagram is? So if you have 4 circles, and there's that point where all 4 of them converge, could that be considered a nexus? Definitely. That's one of the things that we use in determining category design, our concentric circles, those points of overlap. When we become nexi, nexuses, anybody? Either one of those. Well, since nobody apparently knows, we'll just go with nexi. And if it's not a word, I just made it up. When we become nexi in our spheres of influence, what does that do for us? When we're at that point of overlap, whether we're talking about these different audience segments that we were talking about, or opportunities out there, or whatever else, and ultimately all of those things together, and we are at the hub of that. We're at the center, we're at the connection point, we are the nexus. What does that do for growing our audiences?
It's huge. So in the trades, the more people that I'm connecting to, more trades that I know, more business people that I know, the more I can take care of the client that's in front of me, right? And so I can walk in and I can see if they need painting, but I can also ask a question. I can find out if they need new carpeting, if they're going to need a carpenter, if they're going to be doing a demolition or remodeling. And all of a sudden, I'm that person that is the subject matter expert for all these other people. I am the voice that all these people now are going to give me business too, because I'm giving them referrals. You become the hub, and all these spokes go around you, and that customer needs you. They're not going to remember 20 or 30 other people, but they're going to remember the guy that is the connected one.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you. You nailed it. Thank you very much. That's exactly what we're talking about. When we position ourselves that way, we're not just looking at paying the lowest price possible for, pay-per-click ads or any of that kind of stuff. We're not just monkeys on a leash out there in the fray with everybody else. We've differentiated ourselves in a big way. Your example is actually one I was going to share. Many years ago, I was working with two different people in the trades. One was a window guy and one was a roofer. And we put together a consortium. We went through everybody they knew and found the painter, the carpet person, the siding person, the landscaper, the everybody that they both trusted, and put a group together. And every one of them then designed a piece and everything. And every one of them, when they went out with every single bid that they did, every job they looked at, they left that and said, as you're doing this, if you're looking at a kitchen remodel as well, or any of these other things, these are our trusted, vetted providers. Well, all of them, their business has boomed. These are guys that were spending a lot of money in, we will use generic terms, these mailers that go out with a whole bunch of slips of ads in them that, you know who I'm talking about without saying a name, right? And it's not that there's anything wrong with that, but they were advertising in those. They were doing back then, bus benches and banners on buses and just all these other traditional advertising things. Every one of them were able to cut all of that, cut thousands of dollars a month out of their expenses, because all of a sudden they're swamped with work because of exactly what you just shared. We can take that beyond business and just simply take our talents, take those concentric circles, those places where we have expertise, and become subject matters in those. I happen to be a car guy. Grew up working in an automotive shop when I was young, loved that, and learned a lot about cars. To this day, I still have people call me and say, I need to go car shopping. This just happened 2 weeks ago. I need to go car shopping. I don't dare go alone. I don't know enough. Don't want to get ripped off. Will you go car shopping with me? Absolutely, love to. Went car shopping, go to car shopping, go to lunch, have an enjoyable time with somebody. When that is how we are connected, and it's all about being humanly connected, which is the name of our company, when we are truly connected at a human level, opportunities come our way that just wouldn't otherwise. And again, your example of that as an application is perfect. Thank you very much.
I just want to share a win that's kind of what you've been talking about, and kind of also the audience. So I was at like a baby shower for my daughter's, school teacher, and someone else there, so I have a baby product, someone else there was gifting the teacher, their parents' invention baby product. And so I was able to connect with her and hear their story of the product they created that was like an insulated bottle formula feeder bottle. And then mine, which was this car seat cover. And we're hosting like a creator influencer event together now, because we met through, our kids who are 6. And so we're hosting, later this month. And I'm just so excited because it felt like I didn't have anyone to talk to about this. And then I found like this kind of gold mine that I can now connect with. And I've found a couple people now since then that are like in this very niche Utah inventor, creator little pocket. And it's been like really amazing also for my own confidence in it too.
Yeah. Thank you. Another perfect example. Thank you very much. There is nothing wrong with showing up to someone else's event and being a participant. We all need audiences. I go to lots of other people's events and enjoy those very much. I'm an event guy. I love doing events. I love hosting. And so for many years, that's a big part of how we've grown our businesses. We actually launched something, and this isn't a pitch because it's free, I guess. We launched something that had been on my mind for years this last spring called Utah Valley Connect. If you're interested in it, it's uvconnect.org. Go, enter your email address. It's free. Every week you'll get listings of events in the area and all to connect, collaborate, create. That's what we're all about. And we cross over business, family, community. I launched that as my own personal way to be that nexus here in Utah Valley. It's grown completely organically. I've not spent one dime on it. And I have met more new, wonderful people through that than I have with anything else that I've done, including some people from back east who ran across it and sent a message to me and said, I need to meet you. Anybody who's doing this is somebody I want to know. Looking for the way that is authentically you. We'll go back through this here. That helps you leverage your stewardship and be an illuminator. That helps you amplify that category of one that you have. That creates real engagement by being a nexus is something you really ought to be doing. And that's going to help you grow your audience in a way other people can't. And specifically with regard to that category of one situation, that's just the way it works. Question at this point, is any of this what you expected to hear today about growing your audience? No? Has it made you think some new things? Is your brain going? That's what I hope is happening. It's not that any of the other things that you can do to grow your audience aren't valid. It's that having these things as a foundation is going to help you to be able to make wiser decisions, more effective decisions, not better decisions, more effective decisions in growing your audience. So let me go to this last principle here. This is the principle of attraction. When we do these things that I've talked about, this is when we begin to attract things that just wouldn't happen for us otherwise. And we are attracted to the people with whom we align. And I want to talk about that for just a moment. There's a concept we've all been taught that we all live by, and that is the concept of top-down leadership. Mom and dad are in charge because they're the mom and dad. The owner's in charge because he's at the top of the org chart. So on and so on, everywhere we go, right? My belief is that very savvy leaders, even though there is an org chart and there is that responsibility, and that's frankly what it is, it's stewardship and responsibility more than it is opportunity. When we learn how to give that opportunity to everyone and do what I call outside-in leadership, when we're able to reach out society-wide and find out what society's looking for, come into the community, do the same thing there, come into our prospects, to our clients, to our employees, our families, into the core of the leadership of whatever organizations we're in, and then ultimately to that non-human entity, the organization itself. And we let what we discover inform what we do, something truly cool happens. And that is that we don't have to sell anything anymore, because all we're doing is responding to what we've been told. One of the companies, when Karina introduced me, she talked about two nationally leading companies we've built. One of them, I talked about it too a little bit. When I was in my 30s, before I got stupid and crashed and burned, this is back when I was still doing the good stuff before I got stupid. When I got into that company, it's an old company. I mean, I'm talking the clients were Chevron, Sunoco, DuPont Chemical. I mean, big names, generations old family money in this industry. I came in as someone who knew nothing. I had no background in the industry at all. Bought a failing company in the industry. It was one of 52 companies in the entire country. And went out and started talking to decision makers. What keeps you up at night? If you were CEO for a day of a company in our industry serving your industry, what would you do differently? What are we missing? Where have we messed up? What are the gaps? And most of these meetings started with people looking at me saying, now, first of all, who are you and why are you in my office? Punk, get out of here. And I told them, if you will just share with me what's on your mind, we don't have to take a lot of time. Tell me what's on your mind. I'm going to figure it out for you, and we're going to get a solution to whatever it is. And there was a common thread I found that all of these companies were worried about. It was a multi-billion-dollar a year problem for them. So I fashioned what I thought was a reasonable solution. I went to the EPA and I said, this is what I would like to do. How do I get certified to do this? Or how do I get your stamp of approval on it saying, yeah, this is something that we say is good to do? And they laughed and they said, we don't do that. In essence, these weren't their exact words, but we're just the hangman. We have the noose if you mess up, but we're not going to tell you how to do it right. That's not our job. So I went back out to these people and I said, okay, when we talked before, here was what you said was bothering you. This is what's keeping you up at night. This is what's costing you all that money. Here's a solution, or what I think is a solution. Does that look like a solution to you? And every one of them said, absolutely. Is it available? And I said, well, not quite. This is phase 2 of my research here. But after I had a number of people say, yeah, that's it, I went and figured out how to do it really quickly, and then went back again and said, here it is. And it wasn't 100%, but it was probably 95+% of those companies I had talked to became our client. Dropped some of the big companies that have been serving them and became our client, and we killed it. I will just say this was interesting to me. The national convention, or the national association to which we belonged, had a national convention. The next year, the main keynote was on the very service that I had pioneered and established in the marketplace, but I wasn't the keynote speaker. Somebody else got up and gave the keynote speech on that and got it probably about 60% right, which I was happy for. It was like, yes, now there will continue to be people out there not doing it the way we are. So, but that's what happens when we go outside in, and we're talking about more than just market research here. We're talking about a mindset shift, that we don't hand anything down. It all comes from the outside in, and then we come back with suggestions, opportunities. We facilitate conversations and let our audiences continue to refine these things. It's what, just on a very small basis, going back to Utah Valley Connect, it's what's built it out in 6 months to what it already is. Because we haven't spent any money on it. I spend maybe 2 hours a week on it, tops, and it's just me, pretty much. But there's people that have joined that have stepped up and said, hey, here's an opportunity I see. Can I do that to raise my profile in the community? Absolutely. Let's do that. And so we built this team of people that are just all doing their piece of it. So many opportunities exist when we see things this way. On this last principle, the maxim attached to this principle of attraction is be invited. We busy ourselves with going out trying to come up with better pitches, better ways to invite people to come and do business with us. How would you like to not do that and instead to be invited? Be invited to do business with the people that are your prime audience members. Be invited into strategic partner relationships. Be invited into situations that you could have never imagined otherwise. In fact, I was hoping that Curtis Blair would be here. He's not here yet. Maybe he will, maybe he won't be. But I'm going to share this real-life example. It was about a month after I'd put Utah Valley Connect out that I got a call. Curtis and I had met each other previously. He's the president of the Utah Valley Chamber. And he said, Brian, what's this Utah Valley Connect thing I see out there? And I said, what do you want to know about it? We had a conversation, and he said, how do we get involved? It looks like this is something maybe where we could be beneficial to each other. We had a great conversation. We decided what we were going to do. And Karina, what have we decided since? And like 3 or 4 additional things that have happened, different events and different things. That's what happens. I have to believe if I had gone to Curtis and said, hey, Curtis, I'm Brian. This is what I'm doing. This is how I think it would benefit the chamber. You know, this is how it works and everything. Would you like to be part of it? It probably wouldn't have happened. But being a nexus, I'll go down all of these, finding and shaping my own voice, being an illuminator, being a category of one, being a nexus, led to being invited into that. And it's not just that. Many other opportunities, many other things that have happened. I want to share one more example, and then I want to talk about some of your questions with the time we have left. One of our portfolio companies is a healthcare practice. When I met these guys, these doctors, they were working. Here comes the second round of crying. They were creating literal miracles in the lives of kids who struggle with learning. Addressing, effectively overcoming, sustainably overcoming things that the medical world says are permanent situations. You don't overcome these things. It's just the way you are. I saw what they were doing. What they wanted me to do was help them with some of their marketing stuff to just, get some more people through the door. And I said, tell me a little bit about your vision here. What is it you're wanting to do with this? And they said, well, we have one practice now. We'd like to have a second one here in Utah Valley. Ultimately, we think maybe we'd like to have one down south somewhere in Utah. I said, that's cool. That sounds like a good goal. And they said, but you see something else? I said, what if every kid in this country had the opportunity to have the help they need with exactly what you do? And they said, there's no way we could ever do that. We don't have the manpower, we don't have the money. And I said, right, I agree. What do you have? You have an approach nobody else has. You are a category of one, and you don't even know it. You have all of these other, or some of these other things. Let's fill the gaps in there, and let's build this thing out. As we worked on the messaging, we ended up producing what I call a connection statement. The name of the place is Achieve Learning Sciences. Achieve Learning Sciences is teaming up with other healthcare professionals, educators, and parents to eradicate addressable learning challenges for Utah students by the year 2035. And that isn't just a nice line, it's real. This is just over 2 years ago that we started this. Medical doctors at the time, the community, said, this is bull. This doesn't work. School districts, we can't talk to you. You're a private entity. That's not how we don't send people. That's a liability issue for us. Government, on and on and on. We've gone out and done these other things, this list, and I won't repeat it again, that I've shared. 2 years later, we have schools calling the doctors to come do in-service training for their nurses and for their teachers on how to identify these things in the students and creative ways to stay within the policies of the districts and the law and get parents the information they need so that their kids can get help. We have medical professionals, pediatricians, and others actively sending kids to this company. Other places where the doors have been completely shut that are now open. In fact, the 3 doctors in this practice are speaking this weekend at the Utah Occupational Therapy Association conference. They're the ones doing the morning training for all the occupational therapists to help them identify the things that they see and how to address those. In 2 years, marketing budget on that has been probably a grand total of maybe $4,000 or $5,000 for the entire 2 years. I will just mention too, on this other company I talked about, the one in the chemical and petroleum industry, this is a nice little tidbit for you to know. Again, most profitable company in the nation, according to the National Association, 7 times more profitable than the national average, over twice as profitable as our next closest peer. Our monthly marketing budget for that company was south of $1,000 a month. So how did we do all that? That's what I want to share now. This is the part where you definitely want to tune in and jot a few notes, because this is the how. We've talked about the what. It's called your core 100. The 100, that's an upper end limit. 100 parties are part of this core group. Most of the times that I've done this in our own companies and helped others, it's much smaller than that. In that particular company I just talked about, we only had 36 parties in our core group. Another one that we built, a national leader that still is, it's in the top 1% of revenue producers nationally among its 70,000 peers nationally. I think there's only, 20 some odd people in the core group for that company. So here's what the Core 100 is. You remember when I started, we talked about who's your audience? Your Core 100 are the key members of those audiences that have a direct bearing on your success. So yes, there are prospects involved there. Yes, there are key clients. You have also, however, got vendors, strategic partners, joint venture partners, key internal people, employees. Your CPA probably is part of that group, maybe your attorney, other advisors that you work with, mentors, people like that. Your family members, those people that need to be supporting you and understanding exactly what's going on so that they're involved. Sit down and create that list. Who are the key players in our organization's success? And then it's pretty simple what you do from there. These are the people, and by the way, I will mention this, I do have people that use this that actually tell people that you're part of my Core 100. I have mixed feelings on that. If somebody came and told me I'm part of their Core 100, my response to that might be, wow, that's kind of pushy of you to assume that, her assumptive at least, that I'm okay with that. I personally, the people that are part of my Core 100 do not know that they are. The ones that know my system and know how I speak and know what we do for clients and all, I mean, they've figured it out and they're fine with it. But I don't personally do that or go say, hey, will you be part of this? Some people do. Some people say, would you be willing to get some emails occasionally and other updates on what we're doing and give your feedback and so forth. I prefer just to go one-on-one and just say, hey, this is something we have in the works. You have expertise in this area, or I really like your point of view from this angle. Will you share that with me? And just nurture that over the course of time. The cool part about this is when you get your Core 100 put together sustainably and manageably, and you use it consistently, these people are the ones that start bringing back all the answers that you need. And they're excited to, they're happy to. You don't have to pay them. They're not a formal board. And yet that's where the opportunities come from. These are the people that bring back the ideas, the connections, everything else that you need. So it's not that your audience doesn't grow bigger than that. It's that that's where your focus stays and the big audiences grow out of that core group. Does this make sense? Any questions on that? So I would suggest, as far as the tactical implementation of this, talking to those people one-on-one, not in advance, but as you have a need, and then keep them however you handle your database, your contact management system. Keep them in there, categorized as part of your Core 100. Make sure you're touching base with each of them at least once a quarter, but preferably more often. Once every couple of months, even once a month, especially on those ones that are very key, and have them actively engaged in knowing what you're doing, in giving you feedback, in helping you with what you're doing. That is the number one thing that I would recommend as a way to grow your audience. Because again, everything else meaningful will come out of that, including the people you need when you want to spend money, do some pay-per-click campaigns or whatever else you might be looking at doing. The people who are experts at that and can really help direct you will come out of that. And the amazing thing is, as you create a network like this, you end up not paying for those things that you would normally pay for as far as other people's time often, not because you ask them to do it for free, because they offer, because they love what you're doing, and because you are providing that value back to them. Back to your painting example. clients get sent to you because you're sending people to those other folks. It's the same thing. That's the second part of this, is be aware of what's going on with the people in your core group and voluntarily do the same thing for them. Don't wait for them to ask you. Spend time on their website. Look at what they're doing. Follow their news feeds, whatever else it is you want to do, and contact them. It's really cool. I just saw that you got this gig, or you know, whatever. That's awesome. Congratulations. Doesn't have to be hard. Doesn't have to be time consuming. It's just staying on top of that and having those real relationships built, because it solidifies that core group. This has been an amazingly powerful tool. Again, it's something I would never want to run a business without this. It is at the heart and soul of everything we've done, not just in turnarounds, but in the companies that we've started and that we've taken from good to great as well. So with that, what kind of time do we have? What time is it? 5 minutes or so? Now that you've listened to all of this and you have the questions you came up with at the beginning, I guess I'll ask a broad question first of all. Is there anybody here whose questions got answered? Okay, couple. Are there a couple of questions we can address that didn't get answered, that maybe you're shy now because you go, well, this question sounds stupid because with what he just told me, this is immaterial or something. It doesn't matter. Let's address any questions. Let's take a couple of them and see how we might be able to work these based on what we've talked about. Yeah, go ahead.
So with your Core 100, how do you stay in contact with that many people every month, every 3 months? Like, do you have them all in a spreadsheet? Do you text them, call them? What does that look like, that cadence?
So I used a full-blown contact management system for years, and I've found that the Google suite of tools has become so good that I really don't want to use a bunch of different people's tools. I like how Google works together. So mine is just in Google Contacts. That way all my emails and everything all show up for everybody. I have mine broken into subcategories. And so you've got people that are strategic partners maybe, and some that are clients and that type of thing. That way I can contact them as a group. I can just do a BCC email and shoot out, specific to groups and keep them updated on what's going on and so forth. And then I'm a mad texter. I've got, as most people probably do, I would assume, because like I said, I'm an old dude and I'm not way up on technology, but I have a keyboard that the Bluetooth on it switches between multiple devices. And so I prop my phone up there on a stand and turn on my full-size keyboard, and I'll sit and just text and just shoot little text, and I'll one-off those. I don't copy and paste. I might copy and paste, part of a message, but I'll personalize the messages to them, as to why, hey, shooting this to you to let you know that such and such just happened, and, blah, 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 and I'd love your take on, whatever. Here's a little more information. And then there's the copy-pasted part, maybe. So I probably spend time-wise, specifically on my Core 100. I spend more time than this contacting people in the course of a week, but specifically on my Core 100, I'm going to say an hour a week probably is all it takes. It's not time consuming. Does that make sense? Okay. Others? Any other questions, or the original questions you had? Anything else? We're here. We have a couple of minutes. All right. Well, thank you all for being here. If there's anything else I can do for you, I welcome conversations. I am a pure-blood geek when it comes to the entrepreneurial life, and I love talking to people about what's going on and help any way I can. In fact, I'll just give you my email address if that's okay, if you ever want to shoot an email to me. It's really hard to remember. It's bwpope@bwpope.com. I'm also BW Pope on LinkedIn. Trying to make it easy for people. So thank you very much. Appreciate you having me today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. We appreciate your time. This is just a little thank you note. And then please remember that we have graduation a week, so register for that in RSVP. Thank you guys.